Call to the Zionsville Plan Commission meeting of Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. Please start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we take attendance, we have a new member of the Plan Commission, Jim Hurst. So thank you for joining us. Looking forward to working with you. Roger, could you please take attendance?
Sir. David Franz.
Present.
Mary Grabanowski.
Present.
Larry Jones.
Present.
Sharon Walker.
Present.
Chris Lake. Jim Hurst.
Present.
Cindy Madrick.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Quorum, 6 members, go to 4 on anything. With the departure of Wayne DeLong, we need to have a interim secretary named. Is there a motion to name or is there a nomination for interim secretary?
I'd nominate Roger.
Second.
All right, any other nominations? Being none, all in favor of Roger signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Appreciate the work on this. In your set of documents, there was 2 sets of minutes, the May 16th, 2022 regular meeting and the May 17th, 2022 special meetings. Did anybody have any comments, changes, deletions, additions to those minutes?
I move acceptance of both the minutes.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. All right, motion carries. Both sets of minutes are approved. So we had some withdrawal requests, docket 2022-02 DP letter of J.C. Hart Marketplace Town and Flats at Holiday Farms. And the 2022-28 RP Marketplace, those both were requested to be withdrawn. Do we have to make any motion on that? So is there a motion to accept the withdrawal of those 2 items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion carries 6-0. Docket number 2022-25Z, Town of Zionsville Creekside PUD rezoning has been removed from the agenda.
So do we need to, will it be represented at some point?
At this point, it's just being removed from the agenda. So if you want to, you can talk to Roger or Dan afterwards.
Okay.
All right. Next on the docket is 2022-26 DPA, ZCHS soccer field expansion, 4400 South 875 East, Zionsville, petition for development plan amendment for the expansion of the Zionsville High School soccer field athletic complex on 133.61 acres being zoned special use 1 SU1. Present. Please state your name and address.
Yes, I'm John Becker with Church Hill and Antrim. Physical address or business?
Business is fine.
2 North Knight Street in Noblesville, 46060.
Thank you. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. Tonight, on behalf of the Zionsville Community Schools, we have applied for the approval of a development plan modification. This is located at what we call the Zionsville 875 East Athletic Complex. And this is going to be a new soccer stadium that's going to benefit not only the children in the community, but also adults as well. We are filing this application in accordance with section 2.19 SU special use districts of your Town of Zionsville zoning ordinance. This is the initial public hearing at tonight's meeting. The most recent development plan of the site was approved on November the 17th of 2008. There was then an addendum to the development plan approved on July the 20th of 2009 with changes to building elevation, light, and the athletic complex site plan. The project is located at 4400 South 875 East. That is approximately 133.61 acres owned by the school. The site has been approved with currently 5 soccer fields, tennis facilities, baseball and softball fields, and then related parking areas. The subject site is currently zoned Urban Special Use 1, SU1, which is specifically for schools or school-related facilities. The focus of the project is to relocate and improve the existing athletic field to accommodate a soccer lacrosse stadium and the expansion of the adjacent parking lot. The total number of fields is not going to be changing. One of the current fields is being repositioned, redeveloped with artificial turf, bleacher seating for 1,200, a press box, scoreboard, and a concession restroom building. The existing athletic lighting that is there today is going to be relocated. Security and player protection fencing is also included. The adjacent parking lot is going to be expanded to provide an additional 195 cars. We request, obviously, approval of the development plan amendment for the relocation and improvements to the existing athletic field to allow the creation of a soccer lacrosse stadium and expansion of the adjacent parking lot. If you have any questions of the technical engineering nature, we have TLF as well as Fannie Howie, or the architects, engineers that can answer any questions you might have tonight.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to comment on this matter? Please state your name and address.
Yes, thank you. My name is Mark Bland. I live at 8800 Sandstone Place, Zionsville, Indiana. I live on the backside of Cobblestone Lakes that actually will be seeing this complex being built. To start out, I do want to say that I'm very much in support of this project. I think that having that close to the house, being able to go with families over to the games, having these type of amenities closer, and having the school with the ability to decide what to do with those items is great. The two things I want to bring up with this is with the addition of the corridor that's been opened up, the new school, and now the complex with the additional items that are, or additional traffic that's going to be coming in. I would just request, and this may not be the right place for this, but at least putting on notice the safety of the traffic in that area. Already right now, we'll do attempt to cross that road. It's not the safest. We're adding a school. We are adding now this complex. I would like to impress upon those to look at this holistically on what can be done for that traffic. And then secondly, there's a stop sign right directly across from, or there is an intersection in Cobblestone Lakes directly across from this. High school students cut through this area quite often. We're going to see increased traffic also from the new school, people cutting through. I would also like to state that it is the only four-way intersection in Cobblestone Lakes that does not have a roundabout or a four-way stop. And I would just like to recommend, if possible, that it be reviewed to have a four-way stop put in at that intersection. Again, fully in support though of the complex. I think it's great. I think in full support of that. I just think the traffic concerns, I just want to make sure we're all looking at this in a very holistic manner. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this matter?
My name is Jeff Boroff. I live at 8752 Cobblestone Drive. I'm at the entrance right there off 875. And the first entrance into Cobblestone as you go north from the roundabout. And my concern is much like his about the traffic. I know it's going to increase traffic. And all this time, along with the new school that's up there, I don't know again whether this is the correct time to do this, but I'd like for a traffic study and possibly reduce the speed limit from the rail trail south to the roundabout. I think currently it's 40, and I think it's too fast for, again, the kids. And also in addition to that, and I'm probably need to direct this to the schools, but maybe this is part of the process of okaying, is that, you know, the kids, both boys and girls, are practicing soccer out there on the fields, which I think is great. Doesn't bother me. But I just wait for the day when a soccer ball goes across the road, one goes to get it and something happens. I wondered if there was some kind of netting, fencing, something that could be created along there to keep that from happening. I noticed out at the fields, the soccer fields that are out there to our west, you know, they put a nice fence across there, which was excellent. And I think that helped a lot with the pedestrian travel across from the school over to, because they needed that extra parking. And I think something like that should be considered for this area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment?
Yes, my name is Ken Abernathy. I live at 875 West Cobblestone Drive, literally at the entrance across from the soccer fields. I'm definitely in favor of the project, but just again to echo the traffic issues. There's over the last decade, there's been a number of things happen in that area, and most recently was the extension of 875 all the way through to Oak Street. Before that, there was the addition of some of the improvements at the baseball and soccer fields there. There was the addition of the tennis courts, and now more recently also the addition of the school down there. And I can tell you, I was talking to neighbors over the last couple of days since I got this notice, and the biggest thing you find is not only the increase in traffic, but the speed of traffic. There's a lot of folks that come through that don't observe the currently 40-mile speed limit, and particularly coming from the north-south. They get off at County Road 500 up there, which goes into 146 over in Carmel. They come blazing down there, not realizing what they're doing. And so it would be a concern, the only concern I would have. So just, you know, increase patrol. I have seen a few Carmel or Zionsville police officers there recently by the school in that area, but I think that might be something that's in order also.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else? Do you have any comment?
I think it's obviously we want to protect not only the kids, but obviously anyone that's near the facility. The thing that I want to echo that I may not have made clear before is we're not adding any new fields. We're basically making one of the fields into artificial turf. And so in regards to the number of people that attend there, obviously we don't know that there's going to be an increased attendance on game nights. I think most of the traffic impact that maybe they are speaking about has already occurred, and that's because of the new school building. That's not because of this project. If there is a speeding issue or traffic sign issues, obviously we would want to work with the town as well as if it's a county issue to install whatever traffic deterrent issues, speed bumps, whatever you guys would feel be appropriate. I don't know that the school has the authority to make those kinds of decisions. I think that's more of whoever owns the right of way, and we don't own that right of way. But certainly I know when we address this issue with the access that goes east to west off of 875 to the new school, we met with, I think it was Lance, and we talked about these issues. We obviously put turn lanes in there. I know that there is a school crossing zone in that area, I believe, a reduced speed.
There's a little crossing.
You gotta, come up, state your name and address.
Obviously, I'm the director of operations for Zionsville Schools, 900 Mulberry Street. My understanding is the town did not require or request a pedestrian access or pedestrian walk across 875 when we built that building, in part because we don't currently view that as much of a walker campus. The school is set well far away from 875, well back into the property, trying to get a lot of that, to move a lot of that traffic off the public road onto the on-campus and on the property streets there. And so that's the intention there. One side benefit in that realm perhaps may be that those additional parking spaces, as well as that access up to the elementary school and their parking, may pull some of the additional need away from 875 as well in whatever events may be the case there. That's what I can add there.
All right, thank you.
The only other comment I would say is obviously we want to work with the community as well as the town to make sure that it's a safe facility for the kids. Obviously, the school's responsible for those kids. We obviously want those kids to have a good time and not get injured. As part of the submission, we do have a soccer netting, I believe, that is going to be put up, and that's actually part of the request. If you've been to any soccer fields in Grant Park, for example, that netting is everywhere. I think that we are going to be using a similar type construction. And so as part of our proposal, we actually want you to approve that netting as well. Obviously that's going to avoid people chasing balls and delaying the games. I think in summary, if any members of the community would like to talk with the school, we would be more than happy to speak with them. We did put public notices in 2 newspapers. We put it on the website. We did send it out to 144 homes. And obviously we would welcome the opportunity to have those conversations. Again, more of a jurisdictional issue. I don't know that the school has the power or the authority as a school district to basically make modifications to the right of way that I believe either the town or the county owns. But we will obviously continue to work with you in the committee on whatever ways we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Roger, Owen, who's doing the staff? Okay, Roger.
Thank you. The request before you this evening is for development plan approval for the relocation and improvements to an existing athletic field, create a soccer or lacrosse stadium, and the expansion of adjacent parking lot. The total number of fields, as was mentioned by the petitioner, will not be changing. There are currently 5 fields there. They will still have 5, just that one of them is some of them are going to be relocated or reoriented, and the main stadium will have the addition of bleachers for home fans and visiting fans. There will also be a press box and scoreboard. Additionally, there will also be a concession/restroom building constructed just outside the main stadium. Staff has reviewed through this. The project was reviewed by TAC. From that review, there were items identified within a comment letter, which is Exhibit 5 of your packet. The items noted on Exhibit 5 are not of such a standard that would cause us concern. They are more kind of crossing T's and dotting I's, or things that still just need to be addressed, which are not uncommon to other petitions which have been presented to you. With that in mind, staff is in support of this request, conditioned upon the resolution of those items in Exhibit 5. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. At this point, I'll open it up to members of the Planning Commission.
I just had a question. I think it's probably a typo. Where it says that the athletic field, the bleachers, 800 seat capacity and press box on the west side, which is normal. Home team doesn't want to have the sun in their eyes. And grandstand bleachers, 400 seat capacity, visitors on the west side. Okay, I thought that was probably a typo. Thank you, Matt.
Did I hear that correct? That you're not really viewing this as a pedestrian accessible site? Did I hear that comment correctly?
Double Stein again. I was speaking about the elementary school. Indeed, the town has now built the long pathway from the south. And I imagine that there will be those. That was in reference to the question about the crosswalk to the elementary school.
Because as I'm looking through the site plan, it is kind of obvious that it doesn't appear to be any kind of sidewalks along the access drive off of 875 back to the parking lots. We have our trail going up the one side of 875, but it puts people back onto the streets to get actually back to the facility. Is that correct?
I was not a part of the approval of that. In what year was that? 2010-ish. On that site, I do not know what the parameters were about that at that time. 2009. I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I don't know if you have any history, John.
Yeah, one of the other things is about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a sewer line that goes parallel to 875 and it runs from the athletic facilities where the tennis courts are south. I believe that the town actually owns the right of way all along that area. So that the school at this point no longer owns the sewer line. And I think there's already an existing right of way there for your sidewalks.
So my question is regarding the actual on-site amenities when it comes to sidewalks or other ways to access this that are not car or bus based. You have
I'm
no
sorry.
sidewalks.
I'm sorry.
Am I
you're
missing this?
Sidewalks next to the soccer fields?
Sidewalks from 875 back along the access drive, back to the parking lots, back to everything we're building.
Again, I was not a part of that process initially. I know that there was no trail, there were no sidewalks in 875 at that time of construction either. I don't know if that's why the town did not require them at that time. I can't speak to that. I'm sorry. You will notice sidewalk, of course, abutting the fields.
Well, I'm sorry, you're asking
internal.
for a revision of the site plan, aren't you?
I believe we're asking for turfing of the field. Yeah, for turfing of the soccer field for the addition of the bleachers.
Larry, let me get this straight. So your comment is there's no, from 875 back to the parking lot and therefore to the main field, there's no walkway.
There's no walkways
So they'd be walking in the grass along the.
or the road.
Or the road.
Yeah, or the road. Yeah, I see what you talked about.
So this is supposed to be a school amenity, correct? It'll be used by all grades. I just find it kind of surprising that at this point that we've got this sports facility that has no ability for anybody to walk or bike to it.
Roger, I'm assuming it's not required by the ordinance. Is that where we're at on this?
Only refer back to what was approved earlier, back in 2008, 2009. When this layout would have come through, and again, unfortunately, I was not here either, but it was approved at that time without the sidewalks. The proposal before you this evening focuses on the new stadium, new parking area, and the concession building.
All right.
There was no discussion during TAC or any of the reviews about additional wants for sidewalks.
Okay. Relative, before we go any further, I've got a question. Did you notice with first class mail or registered mail?
First class mail.
Okay, so we need a motion to allow for first class mail as proper notice.
I move that we allow for first-class mail as proper
Is
notice.
there a second?
Second,
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay, okay. Just let's take care of that. Relative to the traffic study, it refers to a 2020 traffic study. I realize that generally when the soccer stadium's going to be in use, the school's probably closed. What, Roger, do you have any input? What about a traffic study? Is there any necessity for that or updating that? What's,
Again, the engineering review of this did not raise any concerns about traffic concerns because everything had been addressed on the earlier development plan approvals.
all right. And the road requests reduced speed limit, that's county, correct?
I believe it is.
Okay,
I believe it is.
and
So we can pass that on.
yeah, so we would, like I said, make a recommendation or work with the appropriate people to try to get that modified. In the same way with four-way stops on that main entrance into Cobblestone, is that another county item also? All right. Any other questions, comments?
So are we going to attempt to address the lack of sidewalks or even the fact that we've got to ask questions about 195 car parking lot dumping into another parking lot? How many spaces are in the existing lot?
My name is Alan Cradler with Fanning Howie Associates, the architects, 305 East New York Street, Indianapolis. There's a 261 in the existing parking lot that was built as part of the baseball softball complex.
Thank you.
So there's 450 parking spaces with only one way in and out of the property, and 195 of those dump into the lot that has 260. Do I understand the math?
Maybe the number with that access drive that does go up to the elementary school, there is now additional access to the site. If that's of value to your question.
Additional access to the site.
Yes, there's an internal drive to the campus that runs north and south between the east-west access for Trailside Elementary School and the 875 athletic complex. Our anticipation of use and crowds would be in somewhat comparable to what is existent with baseball and softball. We do not anticipate such large crowds as to overcrowd the site, given that additional parking.
so if people wanted to access, they could come in the new elementary school, take the drive, I can't talk without my hands, take the drive across to where the parking and things are for the new field, correct?
Yes. During the school day, that's intended for buses. And then.
That's more, that, I was looking at that today. I live out that way. And it looks like you've got that off the road sufficiently that you shouldn't be stacking cars up out there for
Correct.
school. So that's quite a long drive.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Sure, I'll make a motion, I guess. I guess I'm going to make a motion that we continue this until they actually do an adequate study of parking and access and pedestrian access to this sports site. As I'm looking through this, like I said, you've got 450 parking spaces that all have one means primarily in and out of the property, with no other routes for pedestrians to get in and out. I just see it immensely short-sighted. If we're going to come in and ask for a change to build a stadium and add parking, I think there's a better site plan you guys could work out. And the fact that this was approved a decade ago, that's okay. That's nice. But, I don't particularly agree with having to approve something just because something was done a decade ago with not much review.
It's of additional value to you. It may not be that traffic study in 2008 incorporated and also included the potential building of a 6,500 foot, 6,500 capacity football stadium that was not built. That's in the 2000, I believe it was 2008 that we submitted as a follow-up artifact. That site plan did include that at that time. It was not built. Again, that's for your consideration. We understand the feedback. We still request approval.
Yep, I know. Yeah. All right, so we have a motion to continue this matter to, I guess it would be the July 18th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Do we want, I mean,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
the question,
Further.
do we want to
discussion.
give them concrete, no pun intended on the sidewalk, concrete things that we want to see when they come back? Is it only the sidewalks, or do you want to see the netting and all that other stuff?
The issue may be that what they've put in plan is according to ordinance.
Right,
And
Okay.
I mean, they're asking, as far as I can tell, they're asking for no variances. If they're in compliance,
then, okay,
it's just a ministerial act on our part.
And aren't they asking for a revision of a previous approved site plan? Development plan? Isn't that the core of the request? Okay, so. And over the last
That's
14,
it's still a DPR case though. I mean, it is still, the question is whether the plan, the amended plan complies with your ordinance. It doesn't mean that it becomes like a rezone or discretionary just because it's an amendment. It's still the question is, does it comply with your plan?
so what we're saying is our ordinances don't require any kind of pedestrian access to sites?
I would think if they did, the TAC would have mentioned it or referenced it. So.
Our ordinances, when it comes to developing special use properties, especially those that are educational based or school based, don't have any requirements for sidewalks or other pedestrian or bike access.
Have to defer to the comment letter from TAC. Don't see it over there.
Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this matter to the July 18th meeting. Let's go ahead and do a voice vote. I mean, a roll call. Roger, do you want to take roll?
Mr. Hurst,
Nay.
Ms. Walker,
aye,
Mr. Franz,
Nay.
Ms. Grabanowski,
Nay.
Ms. Madrick,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Vote, a vote of 4-2 to continue this matter to July 18th. I guess I would, Was it 3-3?
It's 3-3.
Oh, 3-3. Oh, okay. Right. Okay, I miscounted. Sorry about that. So what happens, 3-3, fail?
It's a fail. You need
Okay.
4 votes, one way or the other.
Okay, so, all right, and because this was not a final determination on the matter, it's not on the, okay. Right. So this matter will not be continued, my mistake. Is there any other questions, comments on this matter?
I appreciate Larry's concern about sidewalks, and I would hope that the school would take that into consideration. Whether, and I see Matt nodding his head, whether it's required or not, it makes sense. It makes sense, but I don't think that's, I kind of have confidence in the school's ability to think that through, because they don't want kids getting run over, or old people like me walking into a gate. So, yeah.
And it seems to me that perhaps the town could look at the ordinances and give that some more thought.
Oh, we have somebody online. What's his capacity?
Greg, which is is a member of our team.
Okay, all right, promote him. All right. Mr. Rankovich, can you please state your name and address and then proceed? Looks like you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
Sorry about that. Pete Rankovich with TLF Engineers, 3901 West 86th Street. I just want to chime in on the parking and the sidewalks. The addition of another drive would be the solution that was actually brought up, but that really wouldn't work with the county road and having 2 or 3 access drives along that drive. So that wouldn't be a solution. There are 2 drives connected to this whole facility, including the school drive and the existing drive toward Cobblestone Lakes there. As far as the sidewalk's concerned, it's really up to Matt and the school, but would that be an item that wouldn't continue this? Adding that sidewalk.
well, it failed to be continued on the vote, so it's, I mean, what we've got here is the original plan, and it was built according to the ordinances. We assume it's still built according to the ordinances, so the sidewalk is not a requirement.
Good, right. Okay.
We're asking that it would be a nice to have if you could make it work.
To Mrs. Grabanowski's point, I've been a member of the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board in Whitestown, where I live. These are things I care about very personally. We have children every single day or each year come to us with requests and considerations for additional sidewalks. There have been sidewalks added in both Zionsville and Whitestown at student requests. I'm thinking in particular out at Zionsville West, where both towns built walkways to facilitate that. Those are things we care about very much. They're not a part of this plan, and they haven't been worked in for financing and those components of it. So I'm not in a position to commit to it at this point. Absolutely, it's a value that we have for connectivity. We also want to be mindful of safety and how much the town would like us to be wary of encouraging crossing of 875 and things like that at this point as well. It's certainly something that that we would consider and and look at quite favorably dispositionally. We need to look at it further. I think that's what I can offer at this point. We absolutely believe in those principles and those ideas for kids and for our community.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
I move the docket number 2022-26-DPA Development Plan Amendment Approval for the expansion of the Zionsville High School Soccer Field Athletic Complex on 133.61 plus or minus acres being zoned special use 1 be approved based on the findings in the staff report and the staff recommendations, submitted findings, and subject to resolution of outstanding review items identified by the engineering review letter in Exhibit 5 of the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Rogers, please take roll.
Mr. Hurst.
Yay.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Franz.
Aye.
Ravenowski.
Aye.
Ms. Madrick.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Nope.
All right, vote of 5-1, it passes. So you're approved. So the communication with the county relative to speed limits, who would kind of take this lead on that? Would that be?
Petitioner, I would suggest the petitioner contact the county highway and we can have our staff contact them as well and get the maps up.
We will schedule that tomorrow, and if any members of the community would like to talk to us about the traffic issues, I'd be happy to talk to them right now, actually.
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Next item on the docket is 2022-27DP, R Hopwood Cellars and Winery, 2055 South US 4, Highway 421 Zionsville. This for development plan approval of a vineyard and distillery on 16.1 acres in the rural general agricultural AG district. Couple things before we start. Did you notice what registered mail?
First class mail, that was first thing on the agenda I was going to bring up.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve first class mail as proper notification in this matter?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed by nay. Okay, that's approved. Mr. Andreoli, we're going to open this up primarily because next month is a full docket. The staff was pretty strong about continuing this matter.
Well, we'd like to be heard on that. We certainly,
We want to get it open, so next month, when we bring it back, we can get.
we're trying to clear things off your agenda, Mr. President, but if that's the pleasure of the board, we'll certainly be here and certainly use tonight's meeting to get whatever input we can from members of the board with regard to our site plan, which would be helpful to us. For the record, my name is Mike Andreoli, 1393 West Oak Street. I represent Ron Hopwood and Hopwood Cellars in this application for development plan approval. I took Mr. Hopwood through the use variance procedure, the second one that we did, so that although this property is all zoned agriculture, we do have use variances that have been granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals for the uses that we're putting the property to, subject, of course, to your approval. A couple of housekeeping matters, and then we're going to kind of break this up a little bit. I'm going to have Mr. Hopwood address you, and then I'll take care of the more substantive things with Mr. Carter, Eric Carter, who is here from Y Engineers. Also, of course, Mr. Hopwood is here and Mrs. Hopwood. It's been a long process for them, so they're really excited to at least have the first public hearing and roll this out in terms of what their plans are to have the winery and vineyard up there. Staff report has a couple of errors in it that I need to bring to the attention of the board. The staff report, and again, no harm to Roger. He's been working really shorthanded for the last several weeks, so it's been very difficult for Roger and staff because he's been shorthanded. But with regard to the actual uses that are going to be on site, your site plan is accurate. We are not going to have a distillation building, and it will not be accessed off of County Road 200. The only access for this property, according to the site plan, would be off US 421. It'll be a double entrance, and that has all been worked out with the State Highway and Boone County Highway Department. So one entrance, and then we're going to have an emergency entrance where the access is to the old barn, and have that gated. It will not be utilized for vehicular traffic, generally pedestrian traffic perhaps, but not and emergency traffic, but not on the general traffic. And there will be no cut at this point on the County Road 200 with the distillery project. That was rolled out as a potential use when we did our zoning appeals approval. That's now been removed from the site plan. We don't anticipate it's going to come back, but since we're not ready from a decision-making standpoint with that, we'd have to bring that back to the extent that we locate any other buildings or structures on here anyway. And so as a practical matter, that's been removed and that's in error in the staff report. So that will be no distillery building and we will not access off of County Road 200. Other than that, I'll have Mr. Hopwood address you briefly, and then I'll pick up with the presentation and the substance of the presentation.
Good evening. My name is Ron Hopwood, owner of Hopwood Cellars Winery and William Rose Distillery. I reside at 2055 South US 421, Zionsville, Indiana 46077. I am here with my family and a dear friend of ours. I will only take 2 minutes of your time, and then I'll turn this back over to Mike and Julie. Hopwood Cellars Winery has been here in Zionsville for over 10 years and always in good standing with the town and the community. We believe this business is a great asset that not only is pleasing to our community, but brings in lots of tourism. The new Hopwood project will be a quaint and a tranquil place to relax and enjoy a glass of wine, a picnic, a quality time with family. We believe in family, as this project has been created from Janet and I's own funds. No investors or banks, but family funds. Hopwood Cellars Winery is greatly supported by neighbors, Purdue University Wine Group, Visit Indiana Tourism Group, and the Zionsville community. With this project, we've had numerous meetings with the town of Zionsville, Boone County Highway Department, the Indiana State Highway, all utility companies, and many others, and have received positive responses and the support to move forward from all of them. We have over 950 club members, many local to Zionsville, and many more customers in full support of this beautiful project. They are as excited for this meeting as we are. It has been nearly 3 years since Janet and I have presented this to you, and we are now happy to present this final project documents, and we look forward to our next path of this journey. For 8 months, we have been working with a team of great professionals, such as Chris Lake and his team at Delve Design has created a beautiful building, along with Eric Carter and his team at Y Engineering has done exceptional and thorough work to date of the property layout. And also Mike Andrioli has done a great job bringing it together and presenting it. Please note, as we move beyond this meeting, we expect to fully abide by all codes and regulations. Thank you for listening, and Janet and I look forward to you visiting soon. And one quick quip. It's wonderful that we look at this as a large project. This is not a large project. This is a winery. Keep in mind, right now we're at about 1,800 cases. That's not a large winery. Many wineries, most wineries across the country produce their wines in less than 2,000 square feet. This is a winery. This is not a high production facility that we're doing here. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward. We want to keep this as much green space as possible around our buildings. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopwood. And again, thanks members of the Plan Commission for allowing us to present tonight. With regard to some of the staff comments and the Exhibit 5 that's attached to staff report, we timely submitted all of our materials on the 31st of May as required and presented the feedback that TAC had asked of us. And we did not obviously get the Exhibit 5 to the staff report until we received the staff report, I think last Thursday. It had not gone out earlier. Had we gotten it a week earlier, we would have been in position to address many of those. Many of those items are very, very small items, need to be an adjustment on the development plan themselves. Nothing in terms of any major issues. The traffic has been fairly worked out with the State Highway and Boone County Highway Department. And in fact, when we did the last use variance, I believe it was last fall, last use variance, we dedicated extra right-of-way along our property. Mr. Jones, I'm sure will remember this extra right-of-way property with regard to the intersection at 400 and County Road 200. We don't know whether it's going to be needed. We don't know whether it's going to be necessary. We don't know whether the state will at some point signal that intersection, whether they will create a roundabout. We don't know, but since it was ground, it would not be useful to us, given the fact that we received a variance for where the barn was located. We went ahead and agreed to dedicate that, and that dedication is shown on the plat itself. So from a traffic standpoint, architectural standpoint, we think we've pretty much done all that we can do to seek approvals. I know there's some drainage issues. Mr. Carter tells me none of those are going to be significant. I guess what I'm getting to, if it's the sense of the board to try to get this off your plate, and it may or may not be, we'd like you to approve it subject to us addressing all of those articles. We're already in June. We're going to be in July. We try to get started with some of the construction. The vineyards, the vines have already been planted, and I know you've been working those out there. So it's an exciting project. It's a neat project. It's a project that deals with agritourism that was part of the master plan that was presented. So it seems to me it's right on all fours and squarely within what you'd like to see out in that particular area, given the fact that the airport is out there and some of the development may be limited. With regard to the parking, for instance, staff report had some concerns about whether we were going to have parking stops and those types of things. We really don't want those. Most of the businesses in Zionsville, especially if it's a common parking, where you have parking side to side or one next to the other, will not have parking stops or those types of things. We think there are liability issues and hazards for people to try to step over them, and we don't think there's a public health and safety necessary for them. So those are the kind of the little things that we'll be able to work out with staff, whether we do it on a subject to, or whether we do it before we come before you the next meeting. As we mentioned, the current barn that's there has been renovated on the outside already. That was done shortly after, or maybe in conjunction with the Board of Zoning Appeals approval for the use variance of that site. And with regard to that particular barn, the interior will be redone, of course, and that will be a sales and tasting room, and will be utilized as such. There's another kind of shed that was put out there that has the same color schemes, same materials and everything as the barn that Mr. Hopwood put out there. That is going to be used as a private storage for the home that is existing there. And that will be resided in now by Mr. Hopwood, but ultimately it could have a caretaker or something like that in that residential structure. So that was preserved and utilized as well as part of the Board of Zoning Appeals special exception from a use standpoint. So we've included all of that in the site plan. We think we've handled all the parking well. The traffic itself will flow, we think, particularly well with regard to the facility itself. There will be an issue with regard to whether we should have additional landscaping. I think our scenario is the vineyards are landscaping. It may be a little different than a tree or a bush, but we think that's going to present just a wonderful look and view out there from people that will be using the event center. Those are some things that we'll work out with staff, and we're comfortable we'll be able to do that without any problem or difficulty with regard to that. One of the concerns that staff had, and we had as well, was a lighting plan. And that lighting plan, as staff indicates, complies with your ordinances. All the lighting will be down-face lighting. There will be nothing that will emanate off-site. Those types of things that would cause our neighbors or those in the area any problems or difficulty. We have not come up with any signage yet, but as a practical matter, that will be an application that we can make. We don't anticipate we're going to need any variances for signage, because we'll comply with the ordinances as they relate to signage itself and have that approved by staff when we have that and install that at the appropriate time. We are anxious to get started with construction. This has been a very long and arduous process. And Mr. Hopwood has expressed at many meetings and to me as well that he's very thankful for working with staff and the members of the Board of Zoning Appeals and Plan Commission to help make this a reality. It's really a cool thing for Zionsville. We think it's going to be utilized well. We think it will be an amenity for the town itself. And we welcome any suggestions or input from members of the Plan Commission, both from a technical standpoint or any other standpoint, that we could take to see whether we could comply with those and whether we could in any way try to make this the best project that we can make it, both for ourselves and for the town. So be happy to answer any questions that you may have, address any issues that would come up in staff report, and try to be responsive to any of your thoughts or concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to comment on this matter? There are none. Staff report, please.
Thank you. Mr. Andrioli covered quite a few items in his presentation. I guess apparently there are some items that need to be clarified. First one that he pointed out was access off of County Road 200 North. In the northeast corner of the subject site, the site plans are showing a future pole building still reflected on all of the plans. And there's access to that building from 200 North. If that building is not to be considered as part of this development plan, it should be removed from the drawings. There was no mention of that prior to tonight. Other comments just off the top of my head is, as he went through, talked about possible wheel stops in the parking area. This site is a little unique in that the Rural Michigan Road Overlay District extends 400 feet from the Michigan Road right-of-way into the site. The location of the Winery and Event Center is just outside of that 400 feet, so it is not subject to those additional standards of the overlay. However, everything to what would be the west of the event center is within that 400-foot range and therefore is subject to Michigan Roads overlay standards. And I don't have it committed to memory, but I'm thinking that does call for wheel stops on parking areas that are not curbed. I'll have to double check that. So I'm not saying that's definitive, but for some reason I'm remembering that. But I will work with the petitioner on that item. There have been a number of items that are outlined or detailed in the comment letter where information is still outstanding that prevents the full review of the project. We requested that information and need that to complete the review. One of the items that is emphasized within the comment letter regarding drainage, and again, because we have a new member on the Plan Commission, for your reference, when I speak of staff, I'm not solely speaking for planning and zoning staff. That includes engineering, stormwater, fire protection, all staff of the town. So in this case, under drainage report, staff strongly encourages a drainage coordination meeting be held with the petitioner, town staff, and BLN to discuss on-site drainage requirements. They being engineering have expressed a concern that the proposed drainage still is just not completely worked out for this site, and would like to meet with the petitioner to make sure everything is properly addressed. So the outstanding items for this petition, which has led to staff's recommendation of a continuance, is not solely limited to planning and zoning, but there are other disciplines involved that have concerns as well. And so I'm here speaking on their behalf. Put all that together, staff is recommending a continuance of this project to the next meeting so that we can work with the petitioner to iron out these outstanding details.
All right, thank you, Roger. At this point in time, is there anybody on the Plan Commission questions, comments?
Just one concern is And that answers my question as to the elevations being 400 feet away from the Michigan Road overlay. Mr. Hopwood, have you actually run through pricing of this? My concern is when you do assembly type uses like this, not only do you have to sprinkle the occupied areas, but you got to sprinkle the unoccupied areas. And it certainly looks like almost close to 2/3 of this thing is all roof area. And because it's primarily just a single story space, correct?
Yes, yes, we have not gone through pricing. We're about, right now, this project is about the future of Hopwood, if you will. I mean, it's not about what's the budget in our back pocket today. We will search that out when we get to that stage, but we don't want to put up something that we would not be happy with in 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years. This is something for our children to be happy with. We're not going to sit here and just put what we have in our back pocket even for the community.
No, I'm just talking more purely of function and operation. I'm over in Austin Oaks, and we've got our neighborhood community center is basically an old barn that while we use a third of it, the other third of it's vacant, and the cost to keep that area sprinkler system functioning has led us literally as a neighborhood to wish we could just bulldoze half the building. And my concern when I'm looking at this is just kind of that long-term viability and operational cost of this kind of design. With I understand the look, I understand what you're going for, but it's all that space above the first floor is just attic, correct? There is no second floor
Correct.
Operations in there.
Just space, that's right. Yeah.
I guess I just get concerned as I want to make sure before you get this approved that it's actually what is going to get built, so you don't have to come back again.
Agreed. No, that's what we want, and that's what we will strive to get.
I might also add to the extent that Mr. Jones's comments raise a collateral concern, and that is if this doesn't work and it doesn't make it. Fortunately, the way this has been handled by town, and I think appropriately so, is that the uses that we're proposing as part of this development plan are all part of a use variance and specific to that particular use variance. So if this doesn't make it, it doesn't mean 4 or 5 other uses that could come in here that members of the Plan Commission or town didn't envision. The use variance was given for a specific use itself, and those are both those use variances are enforceable. So to the extent there's a collateral concern that Mr. Jones has in that regard, I think that's handled by how this was approved from the very get-go.
Anybody else?
Mr. President, may I say one additional thing? When I was doing housekeeping, I didn't mention this, but Mr. Hopwood mentioned Chris Lake. Chris and his firm has done the architectural work. If he was here, he would announce and he would recuse himself in that regard. But since we're talking about this project, it's a public discussion and a public hearing. I want to formally raise that issue that Mr. Lake is doing work in this project, will not participate. He's out of town on vacation. He would raise that if he was here and would not participate. But I think in terms of full disclosure and to make sure the public is aware, he has performed services for Mr. Hopwood as it relates to the architectural renderings and the architecture of the building itself.
And you mentioned that right away, so I too would assume that he would recuse himself from the matter. So I'm not concerned about that. Thank you, though. Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
So we're making a motion to continue this to allow the
I mean, I heard Mr. Andrew always say at least 5 or 6 times, subject to working out with staff. So.
We've had a great working relationship.
I know.
Staff so far. We don't anticipate there's going to be any problems at all. And I queried our engineer with regard to that before we came in. We just got the staff report on Thursday, so we couldn't answer the questions. Again, not crapping at anybody for that reason. Staff working as fast as they can. We just like to gain another month if we can, but that'll be a decision that the board will make, and we will abide by whatever decision. And if we have to come back, we'll work in the interim to work with staff to make sure those things are answered so they don't become an issue.
All right. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I move the docket number 2022-27-DP Development Plan Approval for a vineyard and distillery operations on 16.1 plus or minus acres in the Rural General Agricultural Zoning District be approved as presented with conditions as noted in the staff report to be resolved and based upon the findings of fact subject to resolution of engineer and Boone County Highway comments, exhibits 5 and 6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Yeah, I'm going to defer to staff on this one. I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out. The plans themselves have buildings that are not going to exist. I just think there's a lot of stuff in here that needs to be resolved before we can actually move forward with this.
I agree.
I mean, we've been down this path before with other projects that we prefer to have everything substantially answered before we approve something. It puts basically the pressure back on the petitioner to get it done versus putting the burden on the staff after approved something that's been approved, right?
Kind of the way we're looking at this is like it's a secondary plat. There's a lot of administrative things to do, a lot of administrative things that staff has suggested. And that's kind of how we're approaching it. Staff has approached it a little differently, but we understand that we're going to have to get full compliance to move forward. If we have a disagreement, we'll have to come back. It's not our goal to do that because we've just saved ourselves a month to lose a month. So we're going to work hard to make sure staff's satisfied with the comments and the representatives from the town, the engineering and all from town that staff basically has to deal with. So.
Sounds like they've got more than a month's worth of work to resolve these issues anyway. So, all right. So we do have a motion. We have a second. With that, I guess we'll go to a roll call vote.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
If this motion is defeated, what next in this situation? Normally it would be continued. And then the issues that staff has noted would be worked out. It comes back to you with an amended staff report, which says, I recommend approval now, or I recommend denial. But after those issues have been worked out, the staff's concerned about it.
Because I mean,
That's usually what happens.
This is a condition. This is a approval condition or subject to. So I'm assuming that's why it's on there. I mean, would we then turn around and vote to continue, or would it automatically continue if it's voted down?
If it's voted down, you just need a motion, another motion, which could be a motion to deny or motion to continue.
In further answers to Mr. Hurst's question, we can't turn a blade of grass. We can't do anything out there with regard to even pulling a permit until with that subject to until the staff's concerns have been addressed. And then if we have a disagreement with staff, we'll we'll simply have to come back, and our goal is to work hard to make sure we don't have to do that. So we're not going to be able to do anything on the site with that subject to on there, because that's, and not only is that being imposed on us, we're agreeing to it. We understand that in lieu of trying to have this heard another month, come back, we've got to address those staff concerns, which I think is pretty significant from a legal standpoint. So
I don't mind approving, and we've approved stuff with subject twos, but I don't know if we've approved anything with this many subject twos, I guess is what I'd say. There's a lot of stuff that's still in here. I don't want to set a precedent where you come with arguably an incomplete, petition and expect to get it passed. I mean, I think the onus is on you as a petitioner to meet the town standards, subject to a few things, but not this many, in my opinion.
Well, I am acquainted with the Hopwoods and appreciate their many years of investment entrepreneurship here in Zionsville. But I do have some concerns about the staff's concerns and what we're asking them to take on it.
So
Thank you. My questions have been answered.
yeah. Should vote? Could we ask for withdrawal too, or just vote?
I would just vote. You have to
Okay.
probably second the
Okay.
questions.
All right, so we have a motion that's been seconded, so let's go ahead and do voice vote.
All right. Mr. Jones,
No.
Ms. Madrick,
No.
Ms. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Franz,
No.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Hurst. No.
All right, so the motion fails. With that, is there another motion?
we
Sure. I
would
move that
certainly
we-
entertain a request for continuance.
I think that's the direction we're going on this one.
There you go. Then I'll make a motion that we accept Mr. Andreoli's request for continuance. Will July 18th, 2022 be sufficient time?
I'm sorry.
Will the July 18th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting be sufficient time to address the issues and requests outlined in the exhibits?
All right, so we have a motion to continue to the July 18th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. All right, this motion is continued to next month.
Mr. President, just for the record, I will not need to renotice this. I would take it, given the fact that it's been tabled or continued to the next meeting.
Right.
Thank you very much.
That's fine. Just please make a lot of progress is what I would ask.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That appears to be it on the docket. Roger, do you have anything else?
I do have one item. I left at each location of your chairs. When you came in this evening, you would have found a letter dated June 20th to the members of the Zionsville Plan Commission regarding docket number 2021-71-DP. This is Union Woodlands, which will be heard tomorrow evening. It is a letter of remonstrance which came in just this morning. I wanted to make sure I got it in your hands. So I left a hard copy at each of your locations. That's the extent of that letter.
Okay. All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second? Yeah. All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
Attaboy. Ready to get in there.